Hey, it's Sean, author of Effortless 18 F Words to Reframe and Repurpose Your Life. And today we're talking about fine versus fantastic. That's the F word we want to talk about right now. And fine versus fantastic came to me because years ago I read one of the best business books I've ever read, and that was Good to Great by Jim Collins. And Jim Collins states simply that in business, good is the enemy of great. And if you haven't read it, I highly recommend it. But when I thought about good as the enemy of great, businesses are usually a reflection of the people that run them and who lead them. So if good is the enemy of great, if companies are great or good or less than good, it's probably a reflection of the person behind the business itself. So I think we bring our personal standards to our business in many cases. So if good is the enemy of great, then fine is the enemy of fantastic. And it's one of the chapters in this book because I feel like it's an important distinction of F words to make. And the reason good is the enemy of great and fine is the enemy of fantastic is because if something is okay, we tend to not feel compelled to change it, not rock the boat, not push anything, and we adapt to circumstances that are less than ideal because they're not horrible. It's only when things get bad do we really get motivated for change, whether that's in personal relationships or business or personal situations, whatever the case is. Bad forces us to change, but good or fine tends to be good or fine, and we don't feel compelled to choose something better than that. So in this chapter, I talk a lot about moving from fine to fantastic, why you should at least think about it or assess places in your life where you're accepting fine when you should be choosing fantastic. It's an important chapter because I think everybody deserves to look at their life and figure out where they're settling and where they're adapting to circumstances that are less than ideal when they should be demanding circumstances that are more than ideal for them. One of the things that I learned from Gary Keller over my years in leadership with Keller Williams is that we tend to fight for our limitations. And it's a concept that has stuck with me for a long, long time. And it shows up in this chapter because I think when you accept fine, we tend to, worse than accepting fine as a way of life, we tend to justify it. And when we justify something that's less than ideal for us, we tend to fight for limitations that are really not great for us. So I offer that up as a thought process of fine versus fantastic for you to think about. Are you fighting for limitations? Are you fighting for limitations that are just fine or good when you could just as easily choose to fight for limitations that are great or fantastic? Maybe you could fight for something that's not a limitation at all. I don't know your circumstances. I don't know what's important to you, but everybody should at least assess that in their life because my guess is in looking at it, you're going to find some places where you want to make some changes and you can move the needle from fine to fantastic. Now, before I conclude, one of the other things I talk about in this chapter, which I think is really important and I've learned over my years in leadership, is there's a word that's used in the English language, and it's probably one of the worst words that is thrown around because of what it does to people. And that word is the word a lot, A-L-O-T. And the reason a lot is such a negative word, in my opinion, is most people throw the word a lot around like it's an actual number in our number system. If you talk about, well, what would it take for you to move from fine to fantastic? What would it take for you to grow your business from X to X plus? What would it take for you to make more money? What would it take for you to save more money? What would it take for you to achieve certain things on your bucket list? What would it take for you to have the relationship you've always dreamed of having? And most people's initial response to a question similar to that is, wow, that would take a lot. That would take a lot. And a lot gets thrown out as a defensive response to something great because we tend to think, oh, that would take a lot of money. That would take a lot of time. That would take a lot of effort. That would take a lot of mental energy. That would take a lot of spiritual energy. That would be a lot. And I don't know if I'm willing to do that much. When you haven't even really defined what a lot is to you, because what's a lot to somebody may not be very much at all to somebody else. And a lot may not be very much when you think about the rewards that it will give you for putting forth the effort or the money or the time to do it. So be careful of the word a lot as you think about moving your life from fine to fantastic, and realize that when you say a lot, it's worth quantifying that word to see if it truly is a lot. So fine versus fantastic, your choice. You can choose fine, you can choose fantastic. It's up to you. Whatever you choose is whatever you choose. And I'm not saying that whatever you choose is the right choice, but you have to make the choices that you feel are right to you. And I'm hoping that this will give you a little bit of an incentive to assess your world in certain places of it to see if you're settling for fine or if you're choosing fantastic. Thanks so much. Take care.